probably live.
It's all deadly.
Good morning. Welcome to the Awesemo Odds Betting Show. I am your host, Jordan Frank. I am joined, as always, on this fine Friday morning by Ben Rasa. How you doing, Ben?
I'm good, man. It's happy Friday, as I always say. Another week down. Dog days of summer coming up, but it's a good one. I'm feeling good. We're gonna get into a lot. There's also, as I say every week, it's nonstop. A lot of cool, different things coming up.
We do say that, I think, every week. I think this week in particular, we're going to jump around to a few different topics. I think the number one topic that's really taken over certainly the Twitterverse and most of our lives is this pizza roll challenge that's taking place later this evening. What time is it taking place? So we're going to have Josh Engelman join us here briefly, the man himself. Josh, what's happening?
What's going on, guys?
What time is this going down tonight?
Show will kick off at 6 o'clock. I figure I start eating sometime just after that, depending on how hot they are coming out of the oven. It's been established that I have like essentially all the time that I want. I'm going to try to jam this into like a 20-minute window, so I'm not going to just start firing them down the throat if they're like nuclear lava cheese.
So fill us in on any guidelines that have been set to the extent there are any. So there's no time frame.
No time. I mean, I can't stick around for like 6 hours or anything and really game the system. But essentially, during the live before lock show is the goal. Other than that, it's basically just nobody's pitched anything else. The only thing that we've added at the end, maybe we can workshop this after the show. I'm going to donate. As of right now, the thought is $5 for every pizza bite that I don't finish to some sort of local food bank. I think that's a bad idea because I expect to finish, so that would be me donating $0. So we need to figure out what happens on the opposite end of this. But yeah, we figured if I fail, I need to have some sort of damages. So my damages will go to a local food bank or something in that line.
It's for a good cause, and we are a betting show here, so we certainly need to talk about your thoughts on this. And apparently, there's already a line been set. So tell us about the line. What can we bet on?
Yeah, so if you go to the awesemo.com Twitter handle, we have posted a line. We're going to have an update closer to showtime just in case we get a little bit too much action on one side. You don't want to have a bad line out there, The line right now, let me pull it back up because I want to make sure that I get the right numbers. The line is set at over under 83. The over right now is minus 150. Plus 125 going to the under. Right now, 66% of all of the votes that have come in on the poll are going to the under. So not a lot of people confident that I can do it, or they're just a really big fan of getting positive action on that under.
That could be. So, Ben, how do you handicap this race?
I mean, obviously I get some inside information talking to Josh. I'm really interested because I don't think you can do it. I'm going to be honest. I think you're going to hit a wall, but you seem confident. You seem like this is could be amateur hour that you might win this going away. So I will be tuning in. I was just saying to both of you, I love betting on Bizarro props. I hope we do more of this. It's fun to see, and it's 83.5. That's a lot of pizza rolls. So if you have some, more power to you.
I'm really nervous that when I lay them out on the tray, I'm going to get like a really visual like pit in my stomach in more ways than one.
Yeah, so I don't want to get too inside baseball, but can you tell us, are you going to go starvation mode? Or are you going to go stretch the stomach, keep eating beforehand?
So I'm going to do mostly coffee today. I might do like a light spinach salad right after this show just to put a little something in there. I don't normally eat a lot like up until dinner either way, so it's not really weird for me to not have a ton of food.
Wow. I will be tuning in. I'm very fascinated, like you, Ben. I think this is a sign of things to come here.
Absolutely.
Or a competitive eating channel?
No, I don't know. Let's not get crazy. But
Joey Chestnut, watch out.
Yeah, that is not me whatsoever. But I've had enough experience in the past eating like a gluttonous pig in that I think that I can get to 100 pretty easy here. I've said before, here's some inside information for everybody. So if you're listening, here it is. I think I've talked about it before, though. I have eaten 45 bagel bites in a sitting. That is the full Costco size box. That's 5 packs of 9. That is more volume of food than what we're talking about now, which is about 3.25 pounds. The 5 packs of bagel bites is north of 4.
That is some good inside info there. What's the carb count on that? We got to figure out carb loading.
It ends up being like 3,000 calories or something north of that, which isn't as bad as I expected.
No,
but it is
yeah.
a shockingly aggressive level of sodium.
That could be an issue.
Yeah, that could definitely be the issue. Well, we'll all be tuning in live before lock later today. It's going to be a record-breaking audience, I'm sure, to watch you take down this challenge.
I seriously can't wait. I'm so happy Chris Baggs is jumping on. He's not even supposed to be on the show today, but he's going to help steer the ship while I'm just jamming pizza bites in my mouth like an absolute loser.
He could not contain himself, and I think we're all in the same boat. It should be epic.
Yeah, my goal for the rest of the afternoon is to figure out a way that I can make some sort of on-screen tracking mechanism for everyone that goes down the old throat. So I think people are going to want to follow along. But
yeah, you need a graphic.
I
or
basically
something.
only need to track it like after 50. The first 50 are going to go away before they even finish talking about pitching.
Yeah.
The first 50 are what I would consider to be a snack on a normal day.
This is bold. See, that changes my outlook when you say things like that. That's very interesting, but we're gonna say.
Well, I'm either going to come off as incredibly confident and correct, or the boy who cried pizza bites, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, there's only one way or the other. This is happening. There's no middle ground here.
No, look, I have to eat them fast enough to beat my brain. That's the problem here. I know that I'm not going to get sick. I can eat a ton of food. I'm just that sort of person. I need to just. I don't have the mental fortitude to push through it. This much I know for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like
the money is starting to pile in now. We hear that.
Here it comes.
Yeah, I know that I don't have the ability to push through. I mean, like I probably do for like 5, but if I get to 75 and it's like, those final 25 are going to look like full pizzas.
Oh man. Yeah, then good luck to you.
You know, Chad had a good question. Are you going to be building lineups during this as well? Or are you just?
Yeah, I'm playing. Okay. I'm playing more today than I've played all season.
All right.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. I am fully in. I anticipate running crunches. I'll have my screen share up like I normally do. I'm playing full stop.
Do you worry that if you take down a big GPP that you're going to have to do this now every day to get into the mode? Because I'm too superstitious. Like if I smoked and just took it down, then I would have to eat 100 like weekly, and that could be problematic.
That sounds like a silver lining to me.
A bonus. Okay.
Yeah.
Good problem.
Just knowing if I do take down a nice GPP today and I get to eat 100 pizza bites as my job, yeah, I'll do it daily if people want me to.
This could be a whole new channel we've discovered.
It'll be like my lucky rabbit's foot. Maybe I'll have to get pizza bites made out of rabbit's feet.
That's next week.
That's an interesting meat topping.
There you go. There you go.
Good luck talking about the French Open now.
Thanks for joining us, Josh. We will all be tuned in later today. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. How do we transition from there? I'm not sure. But what I should mention is that what I talked about last week is that we are now sponsored. A good transition away from the crazy props, but a good transition nonetheless into our sponsor, EV Analytics. They have betting models, real-time stats, real-time odds, betting stats. Stay tuned. We're planning a lot of really exciting segments. Some guests are going to come on. A great opportunity for everybody to really advance and learn a lot more from them. So excited to have them on board. Ben, there's a lot of stuff that's happened in the last week since we spoke, and a lot of it we went over on the show last week breaking down. Do you want to touch on a few of the things from last week that's happened? And we can
absolutely, we can rapid fire them. Take them down.
Rapid fire. All right, Brooks Koepka, talk to me.
Very good, obviously.
He's good.
You know, Sunday was interesting. I really think that he showed signs, and not to change the narrative, I wish he was playing with DJ. I thought that was actually a very big deal that he wasn't in the final group, and Brooks kind of held on for dear life, but the pressure never mounted to that threshold. So he did what he had to do. You know, it's 72 holes. It doesn't matter how you win it. He did all his work, obviously, the first 36, and then he played defense. Obviously, Sunday, the conditions were brutal.
Yeah.
So good to him. He found a way, even though certainly wasn't a runaway like everyone predicted.
You weren't too excited or concerned with Harold Varner
Just,
coming and taking that prize from him?
he birdied the first hole, and I was just like, you know what? Good for this guy. Maybe he can hang. And then he was just, it got away. And it's just one of those things. You kind of have to take some lumps in majors before you hang on. We've seen that time and time again with guys who they get into the final pairing and it just doesn't pan out that first time.
Yeah, like you said, that Sunday, the scores in the afternoon were, I mean, of course, was playing so tough for DJ to shoot 69 that day, and what he was the only player all 4 rounds under par. Just, it would have been so much better, like you said, if they were in the final group. That would have been so much better television, number one, but then also just ratchet up the pressure a little bit and see them playing together. That would have been cool.
Absolutely. So obviously, props to Brooks. The U.S. Open is going to be the Brooks show. He's the 2-time defending champ. He's coming off the PGA, and we will see. But, all in all, it turned out to be more drama than I thought it was going to be, obviously, after Saturday.
Yeah, I had turned it off. I mean, really, after, I don't know, 6-8 holes on Sunday, and then I got a text a couple hours later that he was only up a stroke. I'm like, oh my God. I was shocked. I thought it was a runaway, even with the course playing tough on Sunday. U.S. Open, like you said, I mean, it's more than a few weeks away, and we'll get into that. I mean, how do you think how does Pebble treat him in general?
I mean, my Brooks credibility is near zero now. I don't think it treats him good. I really don't think it's the best course for him, but this guy obviously has something. The books, similar to what we saw, and it's not a 1-to-1, but, Tiger went to the Masters. Tiger was incredibly overvalued for the PGA. Brooks is going to be a ridiculous number. We know we can do it. There's no debate. The guy's reeled off 4 out of 8. That's or just a ridiculous pace. But there's no chance that I could back him in the betting markets.
I do want to ask you kind of what your thought is, and really, who knows what the answer at this point. But is this a Spieth run? Is this we've seen Sergio have these kind of runs. Do you see any kind of staying power? Is this truly kind of a Tiger-ish moment, or is this kind of he's hot, it's a blip on the radar?
I mean, I don't think it's going to be, there's a lot of people I think that get crazy and are like, oh, Brooks is just going to win like 10, 12, 15 majors. I think pump the brakes. I mean, I remember I've watched golf long enough with when Rory was not doing this, but it was similar where it's just like Rory's going to have 10 majors before he's 30. And it's hard. It's really tough to win. Now he's making it, when you reel off 2 a year, it's a lot easier. But I wouldn't be stunned, obviously, for him to have a long drought along the way. I can't imagine he can keep up this type of pace.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. But like Jason Day is another one where he had a run that he kind of broke through, and everybody thought, okay, he's really going to start winning a bunch of majors. Kind of the same thing. He fell off.
DJ has won. There's a million guys. I think people don't understand. There's only 4 a year. And in their head, it's like, well, DJ's going to get a bunch more. Rahm's got to get a couple. Decky's going to break through. JT, Spieth, Rory, Rose. There's not that many to go around. So someone's going to get squeezed. And Brooks right now is getting his share, obviously. But there's a lot of guys that are gearing up to try to grab a piece of these for the next 10, 12, 15 years.
Yeah. The player pool is as deep as it's ever been. I mean, there's so much talent on tour, and it's only getting better with a lot of the Europeans and the Asians, a lot of foreigners coming in, playing really well. You got your boy Jazz, who had a great showing.
I mean, there's so many guys, and I just think when people step back, it's kind of like I feel like in the NBA where it's always like, well, he's going to get a ring and he's going to get it. It's like, well, only one team wins. A lot of guys aren't. So we'll see how it unfolds. But you can't argue with this. I mean, there's no 4 out of 8 is 4 out of 8, and that's incredible.
It's an insane run. It's cool to see. You always root for excellence, and I hope he keeps it up at the Open. At least plays well, and I'm sure he will. What he said seems to be true, in that he really thinks he has a mental edge in the majors.
Yeah, I don't agree with any of that, but it doesn't matter because when you say it, if you can go out and prove it, it doesn't, you say whatever you want.
Yeah.
And he seems to have shown time and time again that his concept is accurate about him thinking majors are easier.
Yeah. It seems to come to fruition.
Good for him.
Let's talk real quick Preakness. We spent a lot of time last week breaking that down. We had a lot of the key horses pegged, and I did okay, but I certainly didn't have Everfast in any of my exotics. We talked about War of Will. We talked about Owendale. Do you have any takeaways looking back on it?
Yeah, I mean, Everfast, that's an outlier. I don't care what anybody says. Good for that horse. Never in a million years is there reason to go there. I thought War of Will had literally the perfect trip. Shout out to Tyler Gaffleone, the jockey, hung on the rail, cut the corner, and was just perfectly placed. And it was unfortunate for me because my horses were coming. Laughing Fox and Owendale ran their race and they were closing. They just didn't get the right setup in front. And Warville, like I said, he saved all the ground the whole way. So, again, when you don't have the Derby winner in there, it takes some of the shine off of it. But the Belmont should be interesting now. We have, kind of some horses coming back, and that'll be fun. It's, right around the corner.
Yeah, a lot of those horses from the Derby that didn't run Preakness are going to come back around. So we'll have a lot to talk about when we get into the Belmont in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on the Preakness. Why don't we'll do a quick Game of Thrones
it's got to be at synopsis.
The end. We'll do that at the end. We'll put up our spoiler warning. I'm sure everybody has seen it if by this point it's been already a full week. Let's talk NBA. A lot's happened in the last week. I don't know if one or both of us should do any kind of victory lap.
Not yet. I'll wait till they're dead and buried. But these Bucks, the last time we talked, it was going into Game 2. Bucks responded again, just walloped them. Yeah. But then Toronto came home. Obviously, most people know they clawed back in Game 3, won that double overtime. Really rolled in Game 4, but then I think last night most people expected Milwaukee to hold serve, and certainly early they punched first. And I watched the game. I have a position on the Raptors for series bets, and I was not feeling great, but they weathered the storm. What a perfect game plan! Weather the storm, hang in, lean on Kawhi late, and it's easy to say this now, I guess, but Giannis, when they wall him up like that, he really doesn't look like, that type of elite level player. He struggles, I feel like. And we saw that a little last night.
He does. The cracks really come out and are really magnified in a 7-game series. The first 2 rounds for Milwaukee, say what you will about Boston, and we certainly don't look great with that position, but they ended up being pretty easy for the Bucks and Giannis, and there wasn't a lot of strain on him. And what you see, like you said, is that they're completely walling him off. They're sagging significantly, forcing him to shoot. And look, I love Giannis, but he's not a great shooter yet. That's one of the probably only holes really in his game, is he's just not a great outside shooter yet. So they sag off of him. They really force Bledsoe to beat you, and he's been basically terrible. They're forcing Mirotic. They're forcing Middleton. Middleton had a really bad game last night. One stat that I saw was that Kawhi had an insane game yesterday, just offensively and defensively, but he had 9 assists, which is the first time he only had one other game all season where he had more than 6 assists. So it just kind of tells you how locked in he is, running the offense, scoring, passing, rebounding. And then on defense, like we've said, I mean, he's, I guess I would say, primarily responsible for shutting down Giannis.
Yeah. I mean, just the way they do it, obviously it's a group effort. They're funneling him into the right spots. And, what really happens, and this is like most games, Middleton didn't have it and no one else really came. Brogdon was fine. Lopez was fine, but they didn't have anyone who really outperformed. And then on the other side, Fred VanVleet was unbelievable last night. Danny Green was obsolete after the first 5 minutes. And he really, VanVleet was making threes like there was no tomorrow. He was clearly the difference. When you look at just someone, that's not what the Raptors are used to seeing from him. And he was that guy that kind of, Kawhi did his thing, but he needed somebody to step up. And that was obviously the difference in that game. So now they have the chance. I think they clearly need to end it in 6. Not that that's shocking, but just you have your chance at home in one game. That's got to be your mindset.
I agree with you there. I thought the line was too high going into the game last night. Look, I was hopeful. I have a position on Toronto to win the series too. I was hopeful they could get this game and just close it out at home. But I was also pretty confident that they were going to cover. It ended up closing at 7.5, which seemed a little bit high to me. Now, a few of these games have gotten out of control, but Game 5 is so critical. I mean, the stats will show you when it's 2-2, Game 5, the winner wins like 83% of the time, something like that. So you knew I was pretty confident we were going to get a great effort, and the Raptors needed at least a second and or third scoring option. In Game 4, it was Norman Powell who had a great game and was hitting threes, and they needed somebody else to step up. And like you said, it was Van Fleet yesterday. So what are you thinking going for Game 6? I mean, you think they're going to close it out?
I mean, I have to say yes, just because I've been on them the entire time. I didn't bet the game last night, but I do think that they were the better team. I was disappointed they were down 2-0. Not that they were down 2-0, just the way they competed in Milwaukee the first time. The spread's hovering. It's early, 2.5 I see out there, -140. It's going to come down. Obviously, the Bucks are a very good team. I assume they'll respond. It's going to be, again, I don't think they can rely on Van Fleet like that, but Lowry, Siakam, they contributed last night, but they're going to need a full team effort and do the same thing because Middleton's going to play better. And Milwaukee's certainly live to go in there and get a game. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that line also is kind of surprising to me in that I thought Game 5 was too high. I think this is too low. I think only being a 2.5-point favorite at home in this Game 6, I think it's too low. I mean, I like Toronto here. I think they're going to close it out also. I'm seeing the same thing as you are.
I really hope. And like I said, certainly when you're down 2-0, you're taking this spot. But all Toronto can ask for, if they're the better team, they have every chance in the world to close this out. They seem to have an effective game plan, which I thought Boston employed after Game 1, but they could not sustain it. Toronto maybe has, I think, clearly better personnel apt to dealing with Giannis and just to weather the storm. And it's not the same, Raptors team that we've seen time and time again choke. So it's right there for them. And then if they can close it out, it'll be fascinating, them and the Warriors.
So that's a great transition because that's what I wanted to ask you. I'd like to talk about both potential matchups, but let's talk about how we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but how do you see Toronto matching up against Golden State with Durant and then without Durant, assuming, we don't know yet if he's going to play?
I think personally, again, maybe it's just the bias because I'm not the biggest Milwaukee guy. I think that Toronto presents more problems for them, to be honest. Just Kawhi in general, their personnel, a little hard, better defense. I just look at Milwaukee and I just think on the defensive side, what are they really going to do? Bledsoe, Brogdon's fine, but even Lopez, I just don't see them matching up great. Now they'll have home court, but still, I would much rather, if I was the Warriors, play. Not that I think it's going to matter because the Warriors are on fire. This playoff, though, not ideal. I don't think that's a good thing for the way they were playing.
Yeah, the long layoff, you always wonder, and I think they're going to be rusty. There's no question. We haven't talked about the Warriors, since they swept the Blazers. I certainly thought they were going to win that series pretty easily. I thought they were going to sweep them. I think we talked about that last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's a ton of rest. They need it to some degree. Obviously, Durant does. He's the key factor, but in my opinion, I think they win the series either way. I think against both teams. And a lot of people were saying, even as of 2 days ago, honestly, before yesterday, that Milwaukee would be a favorite against Golden State without Durant and maybe even Toronto. And I don't see it that way.
No, I don't see it that way at all. I think people have seen now that the Warriors are still going all the way back from Rockets Game 6. I was one of those people that were, this is the Rockets clearly going to roll at home. And we've seen that this team, Durant is great, but they're still a clear caliber top team without him, and in some ways more dangerous when they're clicking like this.
So here's a question for you. Let's assume that LeBron does not go to the Lakers and he stays with the Cavs.
Mm-hmm.
And these other two teams are constructed, as they are today. What do you think would happen in that world? Does LeBron get through?
I know you're not a big LeBron guy. I love
I'm like
LeBron.
setting this up perfect, huh?
I would say he gets through just because I thought there was no chance that he could have beat Boston last year. And just playing 48 minutes in that game was unbelievable. The Raptors certainly would have been an interesting test for him. And I will say, I doubt, who knows? We're talking hypotheticals. I doubt
Yeah.
Cleveland would have been the 1 seed. So they would have probably had to play maybe both of them, whether it be the Raptors and the Bucks. That would be tough sledding.
Yeah.
No cakewalk, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think they probably would have ended up having to go through probably both of them or Philly, and one of these two teams. Part of me really would have liked to have seen that because there's so much credence put on, so many finals appearances in a row and how great of an accomplishment that is.
That's right.
So I guess we can leave it at there. We don't need to get into it today.
In another world,
Another world, yeah, we could definitely talk about that. So like you said, there's going to be a layoff either way here. Do you see any value in betting Golden State anymore? I mean, to win the title, they're almost minus 300. And, at one point when Durant went down, I think it ended up being right around even money or maybe slightly plus. That was certainly the time to jump on that.
100%. I didn't jump on it at all, and I have no interest now. It would have been, and you were worlds closer than I of saying, I don't think this team is unaffected. I think that they're relatively going to be intact. And even if he doesn't come back, I like their chances. You could have got a great line. Now, most people I think have seen that against the Blazers, and the books are going to reflect that.
Yeah, I think you're right. So game 6, is tomorrow night, and looking forward to that. And like I said, I'm going to be on Toronto. I think they're going to close it out. You want to talk about hockey? You want to go into the Stanley Cup Finals?
Sure. I mean, we can talk about it briefly. Obviously,
sure.
My poor Sharks. They got no excuses. They've had every break in the book over this run. They got it. They had their chance, and once again, we saw at Game 5 they got walloped, and then Blues went home and took them down. The Bruins kind of mirror the Warriors in the sense they've been resting for a very long time.
Yeah.
Don't know what to really make of it. I think they're the better team. The books also think that. I'm rooting for the Blues. Hockey's the kind of thing I think you need to see a game or two, let it develop. I think it's going to be a long series no matter what. So a lot of time to maybe take a position once they drop the puck.
Yeah, I'll probably be in the same boat as you are where, I certainly favor Boston. I haven't seen a ton of the regular season. I watch a lot of playoff hockey because it's just, one of the best things to watch.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a future on the Blues, you'd be sitting pretty because they were in dead last. Made some personnel changes, and now look at where they are, obviously. So maybe they have it going on. It's, two teams. Yeah, I've seen them in the playoffs. Didn't see much of them during the regular season.
Yeah, I don't think we've talked about it. Both of our teams had a rough season this year, and it kind of, cut as much, hockey as I was going to watch. Certainly was cut significantly for mostly that reason. But it would be cool, for St. Louis to win. It's been such a long time since they've been in the Stanley Cup Finals. I think that's a good story. Boston obviously is winning every title in every sport. It seems like we don't necessarily need another Boston win.
Yeah, can confirm. So I'm rooting for the Blues. I just don't know how well they match up.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you there. So that's game 1. I think is tonight. Is that right?
I have it right here. It is the no. It's actually they have a long break. That's what I thought. It's actually Monday.
Oh wow! I was looking at the wrong thing.
That's what I'm saying. Boston, even the Blues, they're going to get a nice rest, but Boston's had a long time after mauling Carolina, so it's going to be a feeling out period, just like anything else, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see how the series begins because there's always opportunities. We've talked about it, during the series and really seeing how the matchups, dictate and how teams are matching up is such a big component of it. What are your thoughts going into the French Open? Have you been watching any of the clay court season?
Not a ton. I know this is more your area. Obviously, the first thing, and I kind of want to just, I don't need to play the dummy because I just don't watch a ton of tennis. I wanted to ask you. I was stunned when I looked that Federer is here.
Yeah.
At the French Open. What do you make? I mean, I don't take him as a realistic threat. Obviously the name stuck out though. Were you surprised he was in this, or has he been planning to play in this?
He's been planning to play. He pulled out of the last tournament, so that was really the issue, whether it was really a serious injury or not. I mean, Rafa does this from time to time where it's just some tendonitis. He'll pull out even in a match or even in like a semis type scenario, and then he'll come back in a few weeks, which kind of is mind-boggling to me how quickly they come back after
super recovery.
Yeah, after like pulling out of a tournament, like is a pretty drastic move. Rafa does a lot more than Federer. You don't see him do this too often. Is he live? Yeah, he's always live, but on clay, he's a dog. I mean, I never would pick him to win the tournament.
No.
I think there's a few guys. I mean, Rafa by far is the clear favorite, of course. He's had a really interesting couple weeks. You had Madrid and you had Rome. Madrid, he'd lost to Tsitsipas, who's this really young,
the Greek
up and coming player. I think he's 20 years old. For him to beat Rafa on clay is an incredible accomplishment. Like there's only a few amount of people on earth who have ever beat him on clay. So that was
11, right? I believe.
It's something like that. It's
absurd.
Mind-boggling. And then you throw in, his record at the French. But then, so Rafa played. So he lost in the semis to Tsitsipas 2 weeks ago. Last week, Rafa wins the tournament. He beats Tsitsipas. He beats Djokovic. He loses at a handful of games. Doesn't lose a set the whole tournament. It's just absolutely crushing. So I'm a big Rafa guy.
I know you are.
Can't bet on him. I mean, it doesn't make any sense because he's just such a prohibitive favorite.
I mean, I catch. Obviously, the last time I really was tuned in was during the Australia Open, and Djokovic took him apart in the finals. Obviously, this is a different scenario. This is where Rafa thrives. The guy that caught my eye, when I was looking over, is Thiem. Good clay player, obviously more up and coming, not as established, but the odds were pretty short. He's up there with kind of the big two. Federer's more in that next tier. Do you have interest in him, or do you think it's still kind of Joker and Nadal's tournament?
I like him a lot.
Okay.
I think it's a stretch. I mean, betting men's tennis futures is very difficult because it's so top heavy, and you multiply that, I don't know, tenfold when you're talking about clay court in France, in Paris, because Rafa is so dominant. What do you have for Tsitsipas? I'm just curious I'm trying to pull up the odds for him.
So at my local, I have him at 12.5. He's right with Zverev, who's 18, Federer's 15. So that next tier, but they have Thiem right at 5-1, which is really short in my mind. Not that I know a ton about tennis. I didn't expect him to be near, obviously, the big two. You've got Nadal at -130, which is just ungodly.
That's insane. Yeah, actually, I pulled it up here. I actually see Federer, the site that I'm looking at 33-1, which is
speaks to the importance of line shopping again, especially with futures.
Totally.
You're going to get real different variations.
Yeah, in tennis in particular, the swings you see in futures, it's in general you see big swings, but they're really wild in tennis. Because there's not a lot of, if somebody bets, it depends what the limits are, but if somebody's putting a couple thousand on one guy who's a long shot, that could legitimately move the odds. Whereas if you did that in basketball, like it's nothing.
It's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting to me that, I mean, Djokovic is the real threat. I mean, they played a 3-set match, about a week ago now on clay, and Rafa was pretty dominant, but Djokovic is playing as well as he ever has. I mean, he really is back to his peak performance. So, yeah, it's tough to bet futures. You're not getting any value when you're betting, a guy to play for 2 weeks and win a major. On the women's side, it's much easier for long shots to win. It just happens more often. And I don't have a strong feel yet. I mean, I definitely want to dig in the next couple of days, and we'll be in Slack talking about it. But, the women's field is always very up and down. There's often players get very hot and all of a sudden they make a run. And the clay court season is no different. And you have a whole batch of really young, European women who've been playing really well, and they typically do really well on clay.
I mean, like I said, I love tennis. Obviously, the first rounds, there's so many people, but as it whittles down, we have some sharp people. It's why I love Slack. I'll be in there talking to them because there are a couple guys, that I've seen in some of these tournaments, and obviously, I think it's a stretch, like you said, as much as the allure of trying to bet a guy who's like north 50-1.
Yeah.
It's a top heavy thing. The cream of the crop. Usually, one of them is going to be there. Hoisting it when it's all said and done. But the last guy I want to ask you, and then we can move on, is there's a guy, Medvedev. I'm probably butchering his name.
Medvedev, yeah.
Yeah. See, like that's someone I'm interested in. If I can get the right type of bet where it's maybe him to reach the semis or something.
Yeah.
You probably get pretty good odds. I doubt he can win, but I've seen some of them, like them. But again, that's just me at a very novice view.
Yeah, and a lot of that is the draw, and you can glean some sort of potential path where maybe he won't have to get through, Rafa and Djokovic, or Rafa and team, and that's where if you do have those kind of opportunities, make the quarters kind of wager or something like that. Somebody like him would be a good person to bet on. I mean, I need to look. I know the draw came out yesterday, and I saw it briefly, but I would have to see, exactly where he slotted in. But sometimes, especially with Federer being lower, like you just don't know how they're going to match up until you see the draw and you really see kind of how the clay is playing, and weather is a big part of it too. It can be really hot there, it can get wet. It's with clay there's a lot of issues that can come up. That surface in tennis, like it's important, and clay is by far the most important as far as a variable. I mean, grass you could argue probably is as important too, but it truly does benefit a certain style of play, which is Rafa. No question.
So, yeah, I mean his, just it speaks for itself. But obviously we'll be keeping an eye on it. It's gonna be fun. Tennis is great. Yeah. I really do enjoy watching it.
Yeah, it's becoming so much bigger. Certainly internationally, the betting markets are much bigger, but I think it's gaining some steam here. It would probably help if we had some American men maybe who were actually decent at tennis doing something good. I mean, I like Isner. He's pretty solid. There's a few other guys, but it's just a void. It's not like how it used to be. And the women, there's a ton of great American women. So that's good for the game, but we definitely need some more men on the tour.
That would be nice. Yeah, no, I'm excited to dig into the bracket. I have not looked at it either and see, I want to get different type of bet, choose a couple guys maybe against the grain, because that's the one thing, as we keep saying, I don't see a ton of merit in really reaching when you're just talking about who's winning this tournament, because just predominantly the big boys.
Yeah, 100% on the men's side. Like I said, on the women's, I'll take a look at it, and we'll be in Slack talking about it. You can find opportunities on the women's side. The men, it's just so hard. I mean, if you look at the last 20, 30 majors, I mean, there's going to be a handful of just single guys in there. Otherwise, it's all the big three.
Yep. It's crazy. It seemed like that run, like I'm interested to see, this is a different topic, but the changing of that guard, when it will finally crumble. Because I thought it was over, and it's hung on for multiple more years. And I'm interested to see that next wave with these guys, kind of that next batch of when are they going to take control and start winning the predominant amount of these majors.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a few years ago. Rafa was injured, Federer had some injuries, Djokovic had a lot of issues, and then they just came back and just started dominating again. And the three of them individually are just, I mean, arguably the three best players of all time. I mean, it's incredible, the level of tennis right now. So, there are a lot of good young players. So I hope that they can start to really make a name for themselves. I mean, even somebody like Tsitsipas beating Rafa a couple weeks ago, I mean, that is a huge headline in the tennis world. Like, that just doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, if obviously someone takes him down at Roland Garros, that will be that will be headlines.
That would be big news. Big news. Yeah, well, we should definitely dig in next week. We'll have probably 2 rounds under our belts at that point, and you'll still be able to find value, and you can do different kinds of matchups like we were just talking about. You want to talk about Game of Thrones? Anything else on your mind you want to get into before we hit Game of Thrones?
No, I think that really covers it. I'm trying to think. At some point, as the summer goes on, not that I'm the biggest baseball guy, but I think we should dig in just to give some thoughts about, where teams we're almost like a third of the way in,
Yeah.
and talk about some of those things. But what did you think? More importantly than baseball, what did you think when it was all said and done? Brand's on the throne. I should have bet it. But technically not on the throne, I guess.
Yeah. Technically not on the throne, but he is the ruler, I guess, quote unquote.
No
I
brainer.
have
You
a
like it?
lot of mixed thoughts and could certainly go on about it. I don't mind a lot of the decisions they made. Maybe the brand one might be not in that category, but it really was the pacing for me and just how it accelerated so quickly. I guess we should put our spoiler alert, but at this point, we're talking about Game of Thrones. We're going to talk about the finale. I had a feeling that Jon was going to kill Daenerys. That made sense to me. I think they've been going that direction for a while to try and put the tension and put a splinter in their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things I don't like the way it was handled, and they have an impossible task. I mean, I certainly understand and recognize that, and no one's going to be happy. I mean, you can't make everybody happy with something that beloved. What did you think about it?
I mean, like you, I definitely mixed. I didn't hate it by any stretch. I thought it was fine. Definitely some parts where it just felt a little rushed, a little too tighty. I'm more apt where like I don't mind if things are left. Like I would have perfect example, and I've seen this floated around the internet, that last scene, John crosses the wall with the wildlings and everything. If there was like a spiral of bodies or something,
Yeah.
I would have liked, to leave it. Okay, what the hell is going on? Or just something, a twist. It tied up pretty neat. And I was left wondering with Bran in particular, like he almost came across as, I don't want to say evil, but so did he orchestrate that the whole time? He just knew this was like, that's a little.
That's what it seems like to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, in the Arya storyline, I don't know. But I try to give. I think there's a difference between, like, I like not to deviate from different shows, but like Sopranos ending. I know a lot of people don't like that. I love it. I think that's a great ending.
I do too.
Shows like Lost wasn't a fan at all, but it's hit and miss, and this falls somewhere in the middle for me.
So I'm glad you brought up some of those other shows. Do you have a favorite show where you like the way they stuck the landing, or just a favorite show in general? Then
it would definitely be The Wire. For both.
Same.
Love The Wire. Love the ending. Just perfect. And again, I think it speaks to what we were just talking about. The Wire didn't resolve. We're not going to spoil The Wire, but like it wasn't about tidying everything
years
up.
old. It's okay.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you need to get on that.
You need to watch it.
Like leave the office now and go start watching it. But for that show was, I mean, perfect in many, many ways.
Yeah, it's my choice too. And Breaking Bad is probably my second choice, but The Wire is by far my favorite show and the best ending because you didn't need to have a bow on everything.
That's right.
That's how that works, and certainly not in that world.
No, it was fitting. And I kind of felt that in Game of Thrones they had an opportunity to show that in this world. Like it didn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't made to fit in ways, and they kind of just did. Breaking Bad, one day when we have more time, I like Breaking Bad. I'm not saying I don't, but I have that way down on my list compared to everybody else. I have a lot of shows ahead of that. Sopranos clearly ahead of it. I have Mad Men ahead of it, which is definitely a hot take.
That is the one probably, of these new really popular, like this golden age of television. That's the one show that I haven't watched.
Oh, what?
Bad take, huh?
You got to get on that. Roger Sterling, all-time great character, all-time on the short list.
I got to binge it all weekend, I guess.
Mad Men's great, slow but great. And yeah, I mean, then we could get into all of that another time when we start this new prop betting TV show channel. We'll
that's right.
We'll be sure to do it.
Any fun wagers for the weekend? Any kind of random things you're doing, or
It's funny you say
start
that.
a new segment?
I almost brought this up before, but now I have to. And we did not plan this by any stretch. So there is there is a horse when I was in Saratoga a couple years ago named Derby Champagne.
Okay.
The father of the horse is Pulpit, who's my favorite horse. And my parents have a dog named Derby, so I bet this horse at 40-1, and he won. So I love the horse, and he's been on a long layoff, and he is running today at Churchill Downs. In the
Oh, wow.
in the sixth race, Derby Champagne, going to be a good price. He's a good horse. It's not like he's a piece of garbage. Obviously, he's not to the caliber of what most people are stakes races. But so that's funny you say that. Churchill Downs in the sixth race today. Derby Champagne, the times have been great in his workouts. I'm very excited to see him take the track again today.
Oh, wow. I might have to tail that one. What time is that race supposed to go off?
So that race goes off at 3:18 Eastern, give or take.
Okay, so we got about 3 hours to get that in.
And his morning line, he's sitting at 12-1.
Okay, pretty good odds.
Definitely good odds, and we'll see. Obviously, like I said, he's coming off a long layoff. I have not broke down the race. There's a couple horses from France who are taking the money, but all in all, Derby Champagne is one. I mean, I love this horse. He's been great to me in the past, and I am excited to see him out on the track. I happened to just look at the entries today, and I said, "Oh my God, Derby Champagne is running!" So there we go.
It's fitting. It's almost too good.
It certainly. Yeah, anytime it seems too good, it ends problematic. But I had to mention that. So if you're looking for some fun at around 3:00, definitely take a look at Churchill.
Nice. I'll be checking that out. Anything else going on for you?
No, I mean, we'll monitor the golf and whatnot as always, and we'll see. I mean, the Pizza Bite Challenge is really, I think, on everybody's mind. So we got
Full circle there. Yep.
hours after that, and no, I'll be around in Slack, Twitter. Anyone has any questions, and we'll go from there because as always, it seems like it's a downtime, but it's really not. There's just a lot of things going on.
Yeah, I feel like we jumped around a lot today, but only because there is so much going on. There's so much that happened last week. It's hard to touch everything, and sometimes you just want to hit on it.
We had to.
You had to do it. Yeah, so like you said, the big pizza roll challenge is on all of our minds. Good luck today, Josh. We'll all be tuning in.
Absolutely.
And we'll see everybody next week then. Have a great weekend.
Take care.